towards her from where he'd been standing by the remains of a marble fireplace.
"Mrs. Wentworth, I'm Inspector Richard Gladstone," he said, holding out his hand.
Helen looked up at him, confused. His ice-blue eyes grew a little warmer as she shook his hand politely.
"Excuse me, but why are you here?" she asked uncertainly. "I wasn't aware a crime had been committed."
"Yes, it's just an unfortunate accident,"
the porter echoed from where he stood close behind her.
"I can assure you, Inspector, everyone who lives here in Cadogan Mansions is completely safe. It was an accident."
Inspector Gladstone did not reply, but swept an eloquent glance around the damaged room. He bent and picked up an overturned chair from beside the mahogany desk, wiping away a layer of brick dust before gesturing for Helen to sit down. As she moved towards it, the shock of seeing the scene of her husband's death finally hit her hard, and she felt her legs buckle.
"Thank you,"
she murmured, gripping the chair's leather-covered arms.
"A glass of water for Mrs. Wentworth, please, Constable," the inspector said.
The uniformed officer made his way carefully through the broken furniture, fallen lath and plaster from the ceiling, towards the kitchen, where they heard him run the tap.
"I didn't realise a gas leak could cause so much damage," Helen murmured. "I hope John didn't suffer."
The three men fell silent as she accepted the glass of water and took a few sips before setting it down on the edge of the desk.
"Would you be able to tell me where you were yesterday?" the inspector asked. "We had some trouble contacting you."
Helen took a deep breath.
"I wasn't at work," she said. "John suggested I take the afternoon off to do some Christmas shopping. I help my husband in his work and act as his social secretary," she added, looking at the constable who had started to take notes. "He keeps long hours, and there never seems to be time for things like shopping, and I like to start early. Then, of course, we have these wretched air raid sirens interrupting our lives, even though they all seem to be false alarms."
A sudden thought came to her, and she put a hand to her mouth.
"Oh, you don't think this could have been a bomb, do you?"
The inspector considered her for a moment before replying. Helen Wentworth looked much younger than her 26 years. His notes told him that her deceased husband had been some 20 years her senior. Richard Gladstone wasn't one for sentiment, but it struck him that Helen looked so fragile she might break at any moment, sitting there with her hands tightly clasped in her lap and a smudge of dust across one cheek. She was dressed smartly, as might be expected of the wife of a prominent MP who, according to some, had had the makings of a future Prime Minister. A smart woolen suit, a felt hat placed jauntily on her head, shining mid-brown curls framing her pale face. She was a true English beauty. He reined in his thoughts and said,
"No, it wasn't a bomb. Would you be able to tell us where you went shopping and at what time?"
Helen nodded, a couple of loose curls shaking.
"Of course. I had planned to go out around midday to meet a friend, Felicity Davenport, for lunch. As I was about to leave home, she rang to let me know she had a headache. So I lunched at Claridge's and shopped alone, thinking I would drop in to see her later in the afternoon."
"I can confirm that I put a call through from Miss Davenport," put in the porter, clearly eager to help with the investigation.
"I have a receipt to show that I shopped at Liberty's in the early afternoon," Helen added. "A silk scarf for my mother and a tie for my stepfather."
She picked up a handbag from the tiled floor and searched inside it for the slip of paper. The constable stepped forward and took it from her, noting down the details.
"I'm sure the ladies in the haberdashery department could confirm the time, as we chatted about matching skeins of embroidery silk for my mother-in-law. She's not able to journey to London as often as she would wish, and had asked John if he would remind me to inquire for her. You could verify that with him. Oh—"
She took a shaky breath before continuing.
"They showed me some new stock that had just arrived."
She was clearly trying hard to offer the police any information that might be useful, pushing the horror of the situation aside in order to answer their questions.
"But you didn't come home last night?"
"No. When I went to see Felicity, she was quite poorly, distraught even. I've never known her to be like that before. I tried ringing to let John know I would be staying the night, but I couldn't get through."
"The GPO only fixed the line this morning," the porter said.